And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Ruth Rousseau Clothier, who had 3 near-death experiences, was given harmonic resonating sound, and is a channel of the Ascended Masters. Ruth, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you.
Well, Ruth, let's start with your first near-death experience and kind of work our way from there.
My first NDE was at 16 months old. I had a growth on my spine, and at that time was back when in the late 40s, early 50s, where they would put radiation right on the body. It was supposed to be a cure for everything. And they brought me into the hospital. They applied it, and I went over. I mean, they knew it. They had to revive me. I went straight back to exactly what I had known before I was born. And I never forgot it. It was that type of thing where if you were to see a baby's eyes when they're born, you know, they have sparkly eyes, and it's like they look, their eyes kind of follow things and stuff. And that innocence is what we were before we came into embodiment. It was, nothing had clouded our vision or our ideas or anything. So that never, ever, ever left me. It was always with me that I could connect back to what I had known before I came in. And that was absolute divine love and absolute compassion. So I'm not saying that my life was easy. My life, if anyone ever read about that type of radiation, it's not very good. And there was a lot of complications. I was in and out of the hospital about 6 times when I was a child. And so all I know is I guess that I connected to it because I could always ask for help, because my body was not very good. I didn't run until I was 13 years old. 13 years old, sorry. 13 years old, it was the first time I got a bicycle. And I couldn't play in gym. I had a heart condition. I really think it was from the radiation. I think the doctors would agree with me. So I was in the hospital when this happened. So it was verified that I did have a death experience at 16 months old. And so my second death experience was at 20 years old. I was 7 months pregnant at that time. And I went to a cardiologist's office to have electrocardiogram before I had the baby, because I had a heart history of a heart murmur and stuff. So they laid me down and started the procedure. A little while later, I got very, very dizzy, and I started passing out. And I said something to the doctor, and he sat me up and he said, "Ruth, just sit up for a few minutes." He said, "Get your composure. We'll lay you back down, and we'll start over. We'll continue." And I did. And at that point, I had complete cardiac arrest. I could see the monitor, it shut off. I didn't understand death experiences. So I could see him pushing buzzers and giving me epinephrine, and I could hear sirens coming. I could hear everything that was going on. But at the same time, I was embracing my son. I got to meet him, and I went completely over. So there was one part of me, I don't know how to explain it, but there was one part of me that would not leave my body, but there was another part that had the experience. And I went over, and the next thing I knew, I don't know how long it was, I was in intensive care, and I opened my eyes, and my gynecologist was there. And he said, "Ruth," he said, "I do believe that I know what happened to you." He said, "I think the baby cut off the main artery, but there are 5 cardiologists in this office right now, in this hospital, that believe that you're going to die." So he said, "I've got to go over and talk to them and give my opinion, but I cannot guarantee I can get you out of here." So he said, "All I'm going to say to you is I'll work on it." Well, I will back up a little bit, because when I went over, I felt absolute divine love. I felt it beyond anything that anyone could ever express. And I got told that if you go back in fear, and it was completely explained to me, that, and I understood it because I came back with it. I can't explain how it came to me or what they said, but it was, if I came back in fear, what they showed me was a life of seeing cardiologists after, one after another. I would be in heart specialist's office. There would be all kinds of investigation done. And if I could remember the one word of love and recite it as often as possible, when the fear came in, to keep on reciting it and to see, and I could see that everything would work out and the baby would be born. Well, all of a sudden, when I was in intensive care, they moved me up to my room, and there was talking. There was a stretcher at the end of my bed. They sent me for every X-ray that you could possibly imagine. They had the operating room ready to take the baby. As soon as anything happened, they were going to take the baby. The priest came in to give me last rites, and I asked him to please leave, because I didn't feel as though I was going to die. I believed the gynecologist. And so I lay there. I was there on IV for 5 solid days. And the 5th day, they took me off of IV. The first night, all I did was I laid there and I said love constantly all night long. They would roll me over every 15 minutes for the baby's sake. So by the time they got done rolling me over, they'd come back and they'd roll me over again to keep me on my sides. I said love probably 1 million times all night long, and the fear was raging because my parents came in. They were told I was going to pass over. It was one of those situations. So I guess what I'm saying from this is that I learned what love was. And I really learned the power of that one word.
When you embraced your son during that NDE, did you see him?
Yes, I could. It was like it was a spiritual thing, but when he was born, his face was totally what I saw when I gave birth to him. So it was, I would have to say yes. I would have to say, whatever happens when you pass over, we put a limitation on it. Do you understand? But our essence is real, and the essence in him had already formed into what he would look like when he was born. So 2 months later, he was born, and everything was perfectly fine.
Do you think he had already entered the body at that time, or he was just kind of hanging around waiting until he would be born and then he would enter the body?
I think it was more an in and out. I don't know how to explain it. I think because of the death experience, which I'm sure that he experienced also, I think there was like a pull on both of us in both directions. So he experienced being out, but probably holding on also. That was my feeling. It was like we were both embracing his body.
So you were shown that if you don't, think of love or recite love, that you would be in and out of doctors' offices. Did a being show you this?
Yes, they were the, see, you have to understand, I was brought up a Catholic. So the only thing I knew was Jesus and Mother Mary and the angels and stuff like that. But there were others there, and I didn't know who they were. So it's kind of, it was very real. Let's put it that way. It wasn't a spirit type of ghost or anything. They were real beings, is what I saw.
Did you see them as well?
Yes. Yes.
They looked like humanoid beings or light beings?
It looked like Jesus.
It looked like, oh, wow.
It looked like, I'm sure that sometimes we see them as etherical, but this was more realism. I don't know why I saw it like that. I never forgot it. I became extremely close to them, and I guess when I tell you the other ones, you'll understand that. So it was absolutely beautiful. That's what I have to say. But what they showed me was really the forerunner for what is happening now. Let's put it that way. Okay. Now I realize it. They were showing me what negative thought and fear could create. And they were showing me what the word love, peace, and harmony could create. They actually showed me the two polarities and exactly what we're living right now. Until now, I never realized the beauty of that death experience, because that's the teachings that they give now.
Before we move on to your next NDE, what do you think is the best way to keep your mind from drifting into fear and negativity?
It's getting to know your heart. The heart is the main physical reality in our body. It is alive. It has an essence that is so giving and so communicative, maybe just in thoughts, maybe just in actions that we take, like direction. The human heart is much more powerful than we realize. And I do believe that is, the quieting of the mind that everyone talks about. If the heart is open, the mind starts quieting, So
Now, when you're referring to the heart, you're referring to the physical organ or just figuratively?
no, just the physical organ. I'm talking about that our heart moves with us. I mean, it pulsates. There's, it is alive, and it has in our DNA, everything about us has memory. When I talked about the first death experience, and I said that in that memory, I could remember them. We all have that. We all have that innocence. It's not full of negative emotion or anything. And I think that that's why a lot of people talk about love when they go over from a death experience, is because that is our realism. That is where we came from. And right now we have the opportunity, from what they're telling me, the Ascended Masters are telling me right now, and have all along by showing this type of thing, is that we are moving back to something that we've known a long, long time ago. Our heart, our cells, our DNA, everything understands what we have come from. And we're just living within a lower vibrational frequency where we do not most of the time recognize it. But every one of us has experiences. Every one of us has sparks. Every one of us has times that we see something that's a little bit unusual. And that's who we really are. So it's waking up to the memory that we have known before. And and the heart is the direction of that.
Since the other side is realism or more real than here, would you say that here is a simulation?
Boy, I don't know if I would put the word simulation on it, but it's closed off. Maybe because I don't really know the definition of a simulation, but do you understand? It's closed off from us. However, and if that's the word that you or other people think, it's our language has taken things and put it into a process, like a simulation. We're in a simulation. We're in this. We're in that. What they've showed me is that we are living here now in a third dimensional reality after lifetime of recycling over and over and over and over and over again. And right now is the time that we can wake up and take back the freedom and not have to do that anymore. So the ego steps back, the soul comes forward, and we start moving on.
Well, let's move forward to your third NDE.
Before we move into that, I'd like to tell you about two short things that happened to me, because it will make that NDE more understandable too. I had two girls later on in my life, in my 30s, and I I went to bed I brought them upstairs to put them to bed. And my son was at Aikido. My husband was at a meditation class. And I brought the girls up to go to bed. And I sat on the bed. I was nursing. And I'm saying that because I was wide awake. They must have planned it, because how this ever happened. I was sitting in the bed, and it was almost like I could see through the roof with my eyes open, and I never could see anything. So, and all of a sudden this voice came to me, and it said, "You're going to bring the human heart and the understanding into the world. And someday people will understand, and you will understand why." And it was, some of them came into the room, some of them sat on the edge of the bed. I said, "Who do you think you're talking to?" I had no idea what this meant, no idea whatsoever what it was going to open up to. And I said, "Be serious." I guess I was just, I don't know. I felt as though I could say that to them. And they said, "You will see, there will be a day." And all of a sudden the roof closed up, and I never forgot it. And of course I told people, and they thought I was a little bit messed up upstairs. So after that, I just shut up. I didn't say anything to anybody. So, and then after that, before my third death experience, I was destined to a wheelchair because of the radiation and everything. I limped and I dragged a leg, and I was in a lot of pain. And I one day sat in meditation, and I just said, "Could you show me an avenue that would open up?" I meant a doctor. I thought they were going to send me to a doctor. A direction would come on, a direction I should go. And I said, "Would you please give me some hope, of walking and being able to enjoy these two girls and enjoy my life? Could you please show me something?" Well, my son called me, and he said, "Mom," he said, "I'm coming home, but," he said, I'd like to pick you up and the girls, and I want to bring you down to the potluck supper down here." I said, "Okay." And so I made something up, and he came, and, we got into the car, and he said, "Mom," he said, "I just got back from the ashram of Guru Mai." And he said, "Would you sing with me Om Namah Shivaya?" And I said, I had no idea what Om Namah Shivaya was. And he said, he knew me, and he said, "It's God within, Mom." And I said, "Okay." So we sang all the way down the mountain, just harmonizing, just singing this chant. And we got there, and I got out of the car, and I stood, and I would have to balance my legs in order to walk. I got out of the car. I didn't have to balance my legs. I had no pain. For 2.5 days, I had no pain. And I guess I'm saying this because we ask, but we do not listen. I didn't have a voice. I had no idea about music. I didn't understand music. I couldn't read music. What's this supposed to mean? I'm supposed to sit and sing Om Namah Shivaya? It was humorous to me. Okay. And for 2.5 days, I had no pain. And I got into a conversation with someone, and my energy went down, and all of a sudden the pain started coming back. And I said, "Okay, you've got my attention." And at that point, I was hearing somewhat, but not to the point. I'm moving because the sun is coming in that window. It was the type of thing that I could have passed off. I could have completely passed off this, and I didn't. I started playing with vowels and consonant sounds, and I started, just exercising my voice when I was alone, and singing in the shower, and just singing to music. I was doing everything, and I could see how when I did it, the pain would lessen. So anyway, and so now I will talk to you about my third death experience. My third death experience was, it was after I had gone to a conclave for Mother, and I'm just going to say this really fast because this is another thing that needs to understand this. I went to this conclave, and I was asked to be a guest speaker, and I I got there, and it was 7 days, and about the fifth day, and there was so many speakers, and it was a wonderful event, and it was for the Divine Mother. It was for the Mother's energy. And so I said to Mother that night, I said, I would really like to go up to the mountain in Mount Shasta and sit there for a day. And I said, I'd rather do that. Is that okay? And she came to me and she said, please don't. And I said, okay. So later on in the day, we went to bed, and she came and she said, Ruth, would you please recite the word love as much as possible all night long? And that night I was led to, I am the love of the earth, I am the love of the universe. And it just went on and on and on, and love, 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 love. I would doze, but my voice was still doing it. And as I moved through this, I woke up in the morning and she said, now, go out there and see, just be open-minded. Do not expect anything. Do not do anything. Just see. The woman who was running the conclave walked by and she said, Ruth, she said, they were going to do a procession of angels, of male and female. She said, we really, could you come down and talk to us in this building at 11 o'clock? I said, sure. So I went down there, and to my surprise, she asked Daniel and I to be, my husband now, to be Archangel Uriel and Donna Grace. And the procession came, and we'd light a candle and give a blessing or whatever. And all of a sudden, the photographer was flashing pictures around the room, and he was right near me. And all of a sudden, what I was told by people is he fell on his knees, and he said, do you see that? The Divine Mother is here. You can see her. You know, he could see her presence. And I never forgot that. It was the power of that one word of love. And that's the way I would leave that, unless you have a question about that.
When you're speaking of the Divine Mother, do you mean the Virgin Mary?
I don't know what he saw. I mean, I know that Mother can appear in very many different ways. Kuan Yin, I mean, there's just so much presence of her. And there were so many people with different ideas of what the Mother's energy was, but the dominating one was Mother Mary. So which one came, I'm not sure. I believe it was Mother Mary at that time, but I would imagine other people could see it in a different way, because I've experienced that with them. You know, they will be talking and people will, you know, see it in a different way. So.
All right.
Does that make sense? I've seen it happen. So I just say, when people say, oh, that was, I say, oh, yes. I don't disagree at this point.
From that initial time that you were chanting, and I don't know how to pronounce what your son taught you.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Right. Is that when you were given the gift of harmonic resonating sound, or
that was the beginning? But I will explain it a little bit more on my third death experience.
Okay.
I was teaching chanting classes. I was having people do different sounds. We were doing Om a lot, you know, before this death experience. It was almost my life at that point. But the third death experience was something that was extremely not, I don't even know how to describe it. I had just come back from Mount Shasta, and I got a UTI. I had a UTI, and I went to the doctors and I asked them if I got an antibiotic, and I was somebody that did everything alternate. So, and I got an allergic reaction, a terrible allergic reaction. And I laid down, and of course, knowing oming and doing all the things that I had done at that time, this was at a center that I was part of, and I would do the channeling and teaching there. And I laid down in bed, and I thought, I can handle this. I'll just om, and I'll be perfectly fine, you know. I didn't know anything about death experiences at this point. I didn't understand them. So I laid down, and I was oming, And all of a sudden, I was out of my body. This time, I knew I died. I mean, this time, I didn't understand how to explain it to anyone, but I knew I died. And as I lifted out, I was singing, and all of a sudden, all these harmonics, I could hear all these harmonics just blending back and forth and just absolutely gorgeous. And I was brought up, what I could see as I rose out of my body was the universe, but I could see that the energy of the vibrational frequency of the harmonics were coming down, crisscrossing, and circling the earth and coming back up again. And I watched that and I went, wow, okay. And I knew I wasn't in my body. There was no way that I didn't know I was dead. And I didn't know who I could tell it to, but I said, okay. So I got brought through the universe and I got to see so many things there. And it was just positively beautiful. And then all of a sudden I really saw it. I have to say that the universe was lighting up, and it was like sparkles. I mean, it wasn't a doorway. It wasn't anything. It wasn't a tunnel. It was just this wonderful, wonderful essence of light. And I went for it. But as I went for it, I realized it was the same thing as I had done before. I started realizing that this wasn't the first time. And as I got up there, it was Jesus that met me, because again, that's the one that I knew. And then all the masters that we teach now, they were all there, but I didn't know their names. And they said to me, they showed me, they said, there will be a time on the earth. And they showed me the visions. And even when I say it now, I get kind of teary-eyed because I could see what was happening now. I didn't understand it until 2020. And what happened was I saw it all, and I was shown the floods, everything that was happening now, the sicknesses, the fires, the wars, everything that is going on. And I thought, okay, and I came back and I told the first person that what I got told was we could do as they have done, and that we could go back to our original essence and the details of it. And when I came back, I told everybody that we could be like Jesus, and that was the end of the center. It was like we kind of faded apart because they couldn't accept it, and I couldn't, what was I going to do? Say, oh yeah, I was just crazy. So we ended up separating, and I moved to Wyoming at that time, and we started writing our book then. That was in 1995 was the first edition of what we have right now. And it was all about positive and negative thought. It was all this kind of stuff. And about 8 years ago, Daniel and I really wrote it into the form that it's in now. But in 2020, I was meditating, and that was before the tents got put up here, outside the hospital. I was meditating, and I resaw every single thing I had seen at that death experience. And I thought, to be honest with you, that it was a gradual thing that we were going through, and we were going to just wake up like this, and that, the consciousness of the earth had risen and everything was going to be peaceful. And when I saw that again, I said, why are you showing me this? And they said, because the time is now. And I was in shock. That blew me away. And from that day, all we've gotten is more music, more meditations, more led experiential things to understand our thoughts and feelings and how we feel about the world, and how much we can make a difference just by saying the one word of love multiple times every day. Just by staying into that peaceful thing, what I was shown is that the consciousness, every person that could step forward and take a hold of that, we could make a difference on what's happening right now. I know I hear reset. I understand what people are saying, but when you contacted me to come on, I wrote down a few things and from them, and I was very surprised. They're feeling right now, and they could say it better than I can, is that we are walking into a time coming into this new year of 2024. And we are walking into a time where the energy is being offered from the earth. It's being given to us to raise our frequency. And we can either use that in fear, anger, judgment of the wars that are going on, or hold an energy of peace. Just hold an energy of centeredness and join in a higher vibrational frequency, that one energy of love in our hearts. And we could make a difference. We can make a difference of, as the human race, we can make a difference. And we can help it. The earth is given off its hands to us. And that's what they, have been talking. And the quantum physics and all this kind of stuff. Because some other my experience are so quantum. And it's that you're up until now, I wouldn't even talk about some of these experiences or the other ones I've had. So it's everyone has them. That's the thing. And my mother had a death experience right after mine. And I talked to her. They called me and I said, she's not going to make it. So I talked to her and I said, Mom, we have a lot to talk about. Please come back. My sister went into her room. When she opened her eyes, she said, I saw an angel. And my sister said, what angel did you see, Mom? What do you mean? And she said, Ruthie came to me. And she said to come back. And I came back. So there's so much hope for us. And there's so much fear right now being talked about. And I think it's having two sets of glasses. So I have a pair of glasses too, but I don't use them for this. Two sets of glasses. One is to look at the world clear, and the other is to look through what's really there and know it, but not to be, not to give off the energy to it.
Did Jesus look like what we see traditionally in paintings?
Yes. Yeah, matter of fact, years ago, I had someone that gave me, back when the ceiling opened up, gave me a picture that was taken of Jesus in India. I think it was in the 30s, late 30s, early 40s, when the cameras first came out. And, I have that picture. And a friend had given it to me. They had gotten it and they made a copy and they gave it to me. And it's exactly what I saw. I'm sure that he's been multiple personalities come down on this earth. But yes, he does look an awful lot like that. And a big smile.
Were you shown any visions of the future that have not come to pass yet?
Yeah, the beauty. That's what I'm saying to you. It is, there's going to be chaos. I'm not saying that there's not. Okay, I saw it. I would like to ignore it. I wanted to put it on a shelf and never see it. And now I see it on the news. But what I remember is the beauty. I remember the beautiful place of absence of negative emotion to create this world. It's the world now, but what it was a long, long, long time ago. And that's the vision that I hold. It is absolute peace, beautiful. We're all healthy. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's hope. There's hope. And that's what
All right, so at some point in your life, you started channeling the Ascended Masters.
Yes.
How did that all come to pass?
Okay. Well, at first, you have to understand this is my second marriage. And I automatic handwrote. My pen would just move with words, and I just write them all down and all that kind of stuff. So that was my first part of channeling. And then I had moved to Piedmont, South Dakota, and I met a person who trans-channeled. And he said, I can show you how to do this, Ruth. You want to do this? And he said, because your hand's going to fall off. Because I really got completely good stuff, but I was writing everything down like somebody else would type it, And so I said, sure. I said, give me some ideas. So we ended up talking on the phone one day, and he said, I've got the name of the entity, because of course he didn't believe me. And so I just let him talk, and he said, but it's going to take you 6 months to a year to be able to channel. And I said, okay. And he said, I want you to leave your body, get the heck out of the way, and let that energy come in. He said, it's going to take you time to get used to that energy coming into your body. I said, okay. He said, well, take a breath and see what it feels like. And all of a sudden, Mother's energy came in front of me, and she went. And I went. And I just looked at her, and she said, you do not give your body away to someone else. You rise your energy to your soul and your higher self, and I will meet you. And all of a sudden, this energy came over me and just went, poof, and it was like this beautiful love energy. And I was so joyous. And I guess that was my introduction, that I could already do it. There's a lot, not everyone can get messages. Everyone can move. Would I recommend to become a channel? I don't know about that. I've enjoyed it, but it's, there's so much growth in everyone that can experience what I experienced at that time. Everyone can connect. It's not, it's not a disconnection. It's getting to a certain point where you can connect to your soul. So that's how I came into channeling. The trance channeling was the faith that, or the idea that I could allow them, because they had given me so much information, and I guess I had committed to it before I was born. But so that's how channeling came into my verbal channeling came into my life, trance channeling.
While you're channeling, are you aware of what's going on, or are you completely unaware and you have to have it recorded and go listen to it later?
I record it and listen to it later because there are ideas, understandings, knowings of what they're saying. We really meld, but I don't retain all of it. I don't retain all of the words. So there's some pieces that I miss. The same as anyone that listens to a channeling, you might get pieces, but you want to come back and listen to it again because, the energy's high, or, for whatever reason, you gather what you need to gather.
So are you channeling one being or a group of beings?
I can channel them together. I can channel them one after another. I can channel one and they put through certain information, and then another one comes in and adds to that, or they just say hi or whatever. So it's not limited. It's not limited to all at one. We couldn't, because of the course program that we wrote. Each one of them had something that they wanted to put in, and then another one would end it, or they would begin it, or they would do a different page. And so I got used to them moving. Does that make sense? Because of what we put together, and music, because I channel my music.
All right. Well, would you like to go ahead and channel some for us now?
I would love to. All right. Namaste. And how was your bright day today?
It's great. Thank you for joining us. Did you choose Ruth, or did she choose you?
Oh, we chose her. But we knew each other before. Your lives are not limited to what you know here. So if you consider us there, at a higher plane of existence, but we flow, and we're with all of you. And so a lot of you make choices before you come in of certain things, like what you're doing, sharing wonderful things with people, and in your heart. A lot of people in this lifetime have definitely made choices before they came in, and some have joined and followed through with that, and others could get lost. So our words is, everybody wake up. How's that? And so the answer to your question, to make it simple, is we have both chose each other.
Why do we keep coming back here over and over again?
All right. That's a very good question. You have to understand that a long time ago, before you had clocks and you had time, there was a place that was of absolute peace and harmony. It was a life that formed into physical matter, and that physical matter was your bodies. Certain parts of your bodies were more alive than they are now. Your human heart, your DNA knew exactly what it was creating and how it was creating, all right? So at that time, there was, the energy started going into more story form. And in that story form, you created a little bit denser world, but it was still very, very, very connected, extremely connected. And over time, some beings came in, different energies, and they wanted more strong stories. They wanted more of an experience of free choice. And you had free choice, please don't get me wrong, but a denser vibrational frequency. So over long period of time, long period of time, and it was still, your consciousness was still high. Do you understand? You could still really connect to both worlds at one time. And then over time, the stories got more and more of a lower vibrational frequency, and you slid down, and reincarnation started coming up so that you could form and balance out certain things. So people would come in for those decisions. Other people would come in wanting to be a dancer, all that type of thing. And then we went into what we have now. And now it is at a lower vibration, and the fear, the, should we say, the anxiety people have, the worry, the concern, and also the English language, or any language, is hard to explain through that, because you were pure sound when you first began, harmonics. This earth got built through that. And then now that you're down here wondering what is happening. And so many beings are talking. There's more channels than anybody ever knew could exist right now. And also people are waking up. And there's deterioration from finding rules and laws and different things with churches and different things that were written. There's new things coming out. There's old things. Why is that all happening now? That's the question. Is it because this is the wake-up time? We would ask you what holds in your heart. Because now is the time where you can rise your frequency freely. But there's so many old habits, old ways that you listened before that move in, and what happens? You get discouraged. You have it here. I know that you've spent days like this, every single person, right? You have a day that you wake up in the morning and everything seems to be great, or you wake up in the morning and everything seems to be thumpy, all right? And as you go through your day, one way or the other, it switches back and forth. And that's the gift to humanity right now, to see that the human heart is something, the warmth for life, the hope for the future. All of it is available. And this one too hears things and says, are you really telling us the truth? She knows it in her heart, but the world is not cooperating. I'm saying that right now, and this year is the year for people to start walking forward and finding that essence that you have lost a long time ago. It's like a big treasure somewhere, and you're unburying that treasure, and you're standing there with the treasure, but you don't know what to do with it because you can feel it. So many people can feel it off and on, and it's real.
Do you feel that we became addicted to these lower frequencies?
I love that.
And we're kind of stuck here now.
Yes. It's, she's laughing because she can hear this question. Some of it she didn't hear what I said, but she's laughing because recently we've put out a codependency of your life. You're a codependent. You're codependent, and addicted, and that we wrote that in the first book. You're actually addicted to this reality. And so the answer to that is to get into, if I say the word innocence, what does that mean to you? The innocence is something that is void of, has hope. It has hope. It has the sparkles that some days you wake up with and you just say, life is beautiful. That is the innocence. That's what she mentioned in the beginning of her first death experience. It's the innocence that you're going back to. Now, people would look at that and say, why would I want to go back to that? But the innocence can create and manifest anything because it's not dependent on the ego. You have got like a stored informational encyclopedia automatically, and you know that in your head. You go down the street and you think of a question and boom, you've got an answer, or you've got a worry, or you've got something. It feeds the reality that you are at, which is the third dimensional reality. It feeds that because it supported you. You can say, are we addicted? Yes, we're addicted to the energy that supports that. And who is that? It's not the devil. It's not a separate energy. It's what you have remembered from past lives or remembered from this life of growing up. It's all the little things that have helped you navigate through a dense third dimensional reality. And now the reality, the confusion that could develop or has developed in some people is that it's starting to unfold back to a higher frequency. So what do you do with that? You embrace it and understand that you're starting to walk through two worlds simultaneously. Does that make sense? Simultaneously, you are walking through the world of a dense reality, codependent on that. And then over here, you have, we call it innocence, because that's the only way we can describe no negative lower dimensional reality, where when you go, you're still a human being. And when you grow into that presence, you're still very, very, very connected and very beautiful. You understand the world. You understand a tree. You understand how the tree lives. You understand the interaction between a tree or an animal or the clouds or the water that falls on the earth and the higher frequency of water. You start beginning to understand things. So right now you are standing right at that edge of dominantly loving the third dimensional reality. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's been many wonderful things that have come out of this third dimensional reality, but you're not giving that up. You're taking back your consciousness. Does that make sense? So, and the human heart is a large portion of that. Understanding it, getting to understand it.
Can you give us practical ways to raise our frequency?
Yes. I will, I'm going to join with her more so that she can help me explain to you about sound. But the first thing is to quiet your mind through meditation, to just be quiet once in a while. But once you learn that presence of life, you need to walk that into the world. So what I'm saying is that your life becomes real. As it grows in a different higher frequency, it becomes real because you are walking it into life. Do you understand? Many of us that is joined in this conversation right now have lived in ashrams, have lived and lives to teach the forerunner to this. All right. And you can get to a point where in meditation, you can join everything. It's beautiful. But what do you do with it right now? What now you begin to walk it into life? And you've seen it within your life. If you go into a grocery store or somewhere and your essence is you've had a good morning, you had a good afternoon, things are good. You notice that your eye contact between other people is different than if you walk in and you're just tired, angry, frustrated. And that's what we're talking about. It's learning how to appreciate the higher frequency that's being offered. And this one, she was very, very, very good, because we asked her before her third death experience, would you do sound? Would you actually do it? Because at that point we weren't channeling through her. And she got excited and she said, yes. She had no idea what it meant. And sound is a vibration that you can learn to sing, like even om or ah or ho, hue, any combinations, and actually do it internally also, so that it vibrates. What starts happening is when you externally use sound, and you can think of that of every word you speak, all right? If that is in a higher frequency, or in a peace, a happiness, a joy, love, absolute love, what you start realizing is that your body holds a higher vibration. You can feel the vibration in your body, so that when you go out into the world, you start experiencing different things. You start experiencing, she had a fox, and fox do not come out during the day. They come out at dusk and in the morning. And it came down the steps just in front of these French doors, and it looked right at her and then continued to walk on. And this was about 3 weeks ago. What is the chance of having that? And that was a blessing. That was high. We're both doing the same thing, that type of thing. Does that, and in practical life, I would say appreciation and allowance for the change. That would be the biggest thing. The dependent part on this earth that we talked about, the addiction, and it is like an addiction, all right? I agree with you, all right? If you would have allowance rather than resistance, you would see the whole thing opening up. The whole day would be beautiful. So it's those kind of awarenesses, of your bodies become a monitor of when it's going down, just like she said when she sang and she could walk. It's your bodies become monitors of when your energy is going down and when it's going up. So I would say do the things that it takes to go up right now, and then go on from there.
What about connecting with your heart? She spoke about that earlier.
The heart connection is a very simple thing to do, but it takes the addictive behavior to step aside. All right. It's the trust. It gets to the point where you start realizing that the heart is much more than what you have ever known. But if you realize it, from eons of time, the heart beats and nobody knows why. There's not, I guess science could come up with an answer now, but it's just an automatic life force that's in you. And so if you speak or breathe with the heart energy, with being accounted for within your body, like you are accounted for, you are present. Same thing as I told her when she was going to speak with our voices. Breathe. Bring your essence into your body. The heart is waiting. You have to understand that the parts of you that can grow into whatever anyone wants to call it, the guru or whatever you want to call it, the higher self, the soul, that part of you is alive, waiting. It's almost like if you were to say, if you were to say, this is the floor, all right? And this is where you have to be. If you could at all join the two and realize that they're already here, they just need to be woke up or to allow to wake up. Your soul has been this big. Your soul is expansive. When you are in a lower quality thought, you're pushing it away and bringing all of what you've had before. And as we have said many times, once you start doing that, your backpack comes off. You don't need it anymore, and you don't need all your stored information. It's trust. It's actually the trust in life that can open up and show you the direction.
Are we all collectively God that's been broken into billions of pieces or separated?
Well, that's a very logical way to put it, but yes. You're all, I wouldn't call that you're broken to pieces. What I would call from the higher energy moving back up, because that is a terminology that has been used, is that you're all interconnected through your souls, your essence. You are all interconnected. And that's why when she said the love affirmations that night, when she was, at Mount Shasta, all the connection of everyone joined in on that at night. Everyone that could did. And the whole place, the energy in that place for the next 2 days was as high as anything, because everyone had joined into that energy. And that's what's happening on the earth right now. The more people that join into that energy, all right, and connect, then the earth can put out even more.
Do you think that there's going to be some sort of big event in 2024?
What is a big event to you? I just...
Either something on the planet or some spiritual event or something that's perhaps obvious to everybody.
You're talking about a higher thing, not the lower.
Either one.
One. Okay. As far as the higher is concerned, because there's enough information out there on the lower, what I am saying to you and what I've said right along is each person that connects is, okay, when you ask the other question, the one just before this about the God splitting apart and all of us are part of that. If you look at that and you see each person starting to come forward into a higher consciousness, of course there's going to be an event. And it's not that it's your fault if it doesn't. I'm not saying that. But anything that does happen is going to be a unity. Does that make sense? Or personally, within oneself. I mean, some people are going to awaken even more and set the stage for other people to understand it. But I believe that there is no, is there going to be? There is, if there could be, or will there be? It's not, we don't like to put forth, if it doesn't happen, then it's your fault. That's not what we're talking about. There will be many individuals that will experience that. Now, if those individuals can unite where they don't even realize what they're doing, and there will be something, yes. I mean, all right, let's talk right now about things you're missing, all right? If you look at the moon at night, do you notice anything different about it? And I don't mean chaos, I mean brightness. I mean lively energy coming out of it.
I have noticed it recently, but I'm not sure if it was just because, we've had a full moon.
Okay, there's little sparkles that are going to start happening, and those are more important than the big bangs, all right? Everyone's waiting for something to happen, or for Jesus to come back, and he's got a whole story about that, but we can't get into that today. It's you have to understand that that there could be something big, but the big could be small things that you notice, and that's showing you that things are changing. There's no pressure on anyone. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is just to become part of it. It's a whole different thing. So, but you have noticed the moon.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the sun and it's in the clouds. And Daniel here came into her the other day, and he said, "You have to come out and look at the clouds." And other people have called her. It's just it's essence. It's essence that's going to start opening up for you right now. The realness.
Well, thank you for joining us. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you for asking us. I just was a pleasure to be with you. So thank you. Namaste. That's them.
Earlier, you mentioned your book, and I believe the title is Infinite Wisdom of the Heart, Our Journey Awakens.
Harmonic resonance of sound.
If people want to find out more about it, do they go to a website or Amazon?
No, this is not on Amazon. And the reason for that, and so thank you for asking that question, it's not just a book, it is a life study program. And exactly what they were talking about teaches us to walk out in the world and to start letting go of the things that are holding us into the lower vibrational frequency and to accept the other. It's very much oriented on the human heart. And right now it is in loose leaf notebook form because they're adding to it. So in order for me to have it published and put on to Amazon, it would lose everything. So there's 4 books, and what it is a there will be more information coming into it. And then there'll be a 5th book that goes along with it. So the way to get it is from, if you look up www.wisdomoftheheartrc.com, you can get over to our website, and it's on our website. The other way to contact us would be ruthlovelife@yahoo.com.
So if people wanted to contact you and ask you questions, are you open to that?
We have 2 Zoom meetings, and there'll probably be more very, very soon. One is for book owners, for the life study guide, and the other one is for everyone. And they can come in, and if they have a question, they can send it to us. That would be wonderful. And usually other people are there, and we have conversations and stuff.
Well, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Just say the word love, often. They said it one time, say it 6 times every hour, and see how it changes you. But have hope. Just be free to realize that something is changing and that it's glorious. And so, anyway.
Ruth, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.